You saw the letter mentioned in that title, and something in your chest tightened. Good. That means you're paying attention. Because there are envelopes landing on doormats across this country right now, brown ones, official ones, and the people getting them have no idea the clock has already started ticking. If you're between 55 and 80, this reaches you. I nearly watched someone I love lose thousands of pounds because of one of these letters, and I'm not letting that happen to you. Here's the plain truth up front. The Department for Work and Pensions is sending out notices that quietly set a deadline, and if you miss it, you don't just wait longer. You can lose money you were entitled to and never get it back. I learned this the hard way, standing in my sister-in-law Margaret's kitchen last autumn, staring at a letter she'd left half open under a stack of unpaid bills because she thought it was junk. Stay with me to the end, because I'm going to show you one thing, backed by the government's own guidance pages, that can put an average of nearly £3,900 a year back in a pensioner's pocket, and unlock a payment worth up to £300 this winter on top. Most people who qualify never claim it. And before you tell yourself none of this applies to you because you've got a small private pension or a bit of savings, let me stop you right there. That assumption is exactly the trap. It's the reason the money stays unclaimed. Let me take you back to that kitchen, because it's where all of this started for me. Margaret is 73. Her husband passed 4 years ago. She gets her state pension, a tiny works pension from the years she did the school dinners, and that was it. When I picked up that half-open letter, I saw the letters DWP at the top and a date, and underneath, in that cold official language, it talked about a change to how a payment she'd always received was going to be decided from now on. She'd read the first line, decided it was too complicated, and put it down. That single decision nearly cost her everything she was owed. Now here's where it gets strange, and this is the part that made me start digging. At first I thought the letter was a mistake. I thought, surely they can't just change the rules on a woman her age, without making sure she understands. So I sat down at her table with my reading glasses, and I went through every line. And what I found didn't add up. The letter told her what was being taken away. It did not, anywhere, in plain words, tell her what she needed to do to protect herself. That gap, that silence in the middle of an official letter, is the whole story. That's what I've spent months pulling apart, and what I'm about to walk you through. So let's start with what's actually changing, because you need the facts, not the fear. For years, one payment went out almost automatically to people over state pension age when the cold weather came. You've had it. Your neighbors have had it. Up to £300 to help with heating through the worst months. It landed most winters without you lifting a finger. But from the winter of 2024, the rules were rewritten. That payment is no longer sent to everyone over pension age. Now, to receive it, you have to be getting a specific other benefit. And most pensioners who lost it never got a letter explaining, in words they could understand, that there was a way to get it back. The benefit that acts as the key is called pension credit. Say those 2 words out loud and remember them, because they are about to become the most important 2 words in this entire video. Pension credit is the gateway. If you're getting it, the heating payment comes back to you. If you're not, you're locked out, even if you were getting that heating money your whole retirement up to now. And here's the number that made me sit up. The government's own figures show that hundreds of thousands of pensioners who are entitled to pension credit are not claiming it. Not a handful. Around 800,000 households. People who qualify, who are owed the money, who simply never put in the claim because nobody ever told them plainly that they should. So the first piece of the puzzle clicks into place. The heating payment didn't just vanish. It got tied to a benefit that most eligible people aren't claiming. Margaret was one of them. She'd never claimed pension credit in her life because she assumed, like almost everyone I talked to, that she earned too much to qualify. She was wrong. And the amount she was wrong by would have taken your breath away. But that raised a bigger question for me. And it's the one I want you to hold on to as we go deeper. If 800,000 people are missing out on money they're owed, why is it so hard to find out you qualify? Why did Margaret's letter tell her what she was losing but not how to claim it back? Somebody, somewhere, benefits when that claim goes unmade. Keep that in your mind. We're coming back to it. Now let me show you exactly who can claim, because this is where most people count themselves out by mistake. Pension credit tops up your weekly income if you're over state pension age and you're living on a low income. For the year we're in now, 2025 to 2026, it can top a single person's income up to £227 and 10 pence a week. For a couple, up to £346 and 60 pence a week. And here's the part people get wrong every single time. It's not just about your state pension. Even if your income is a little above those figures, you might still qualify, especially if you have a disability, if you're a carer, or if you have certain housing costs. There are extra amounts built in that push the limit higher than you'd ever guess from the headline number. So when Margaret told me, oh, I earned too much for that, she disqualified herself in her own head, based on nothing. When I actually added it up, her small works pension and her state pension together left her just under the line. She qualified. She'd qualified for years, and every one of those years she'd gone without. Let me tell you what claiming it would have unlocked, because it is so much more than the top-up itself. And this is the moment where I realized the real scale of what people are losing. Pension credit isn't just one payment, it's a master key. Once you're on it, doors open that were bolted shut before. The heating payment worth up to £300 this winter. That comes back. A reduction on your council tax, sometimes wiping out the whole bill. Help with your rent through housing benefit. If you're 75 or over, a free TV license, which on its own is worth over £170 a year. Help with NHS costs, dental treatment, glasses, and in a cold snap, extra cold weather payments of £25 for each freezing week. Stack all of that together, and the government's own estimate is that pension credit is worth, on average, around £3,900 a year. To the people who claim it, £3,900. For Margaret, sitting on that unopened letter, that was nearly £4,000 a year she'd been walking past, because one form looked too complicated and one letter didn't spell it out. But here's where a new question opened up, and it's darker than the last one. If claiming pension credit unlocks all of that, why was Margaret's letter about a deadline? Why the ticking clock? Because I hadn't told you the whole truth about that envelope yet. That letter wasn't just about the heating payment. There's a second, separate thing happening to people right now, and it's the one with a hard cutoff that can wipe out your money for good if you sit on it. Let me explain. Because this is the trap that catches people who think they're already sorted. The Department for Work and Pensions is in the middle of moving people off older benefits onto a newer system. If you or your partner get certain older benefits, you're being sent what's officially called a migration notice. It's a letter that tells you your existing benefit is ending and that to keep getting support, you must make a fresh claim on the new system by a specific date printed on the letter. And here is the cruel part. That deadline is normally just 3 months from the date on the letter. Miss it, and your payments can stop dead. Not pause, stop. Even worse, there's something called transitional protection. It's a top-up that makes sure you're not left worse off when you move across. But you only get that protection if you make your new claim by the deadline on your letter. Miss the date, and you don't just lose time, you can lose that protection permanently, which means you could end up with less money every single month for the rest of your claim. All because a letter got left under a pile of bills. This is why I nearly lost my mind in Margaret's kitchen, because the letter in her hand had a date on it, and that date was already 3 weeks gone. We were inside the window still, but only just. If I'd visited a month later, we'd have been having a very different conversation. So let me be absolutely direct with you, because this is the practical part you came for. If a brown envelope from the Department for Work and Pensions arrives and it uses the word migration, or tells you your benefit is ending and you need to claim something new, do not put it down. Do not decide it's junk. Find the date. Write that date on your calendar in thick pen. And treat everything before that date as urgent, because the system will not chase you kindly. The deadline is real, and it does not care that the letter was confusing. Now, I can already hear some of you. You're thinking, this doesn't touch me. I don't get those old benefits. I'm not on the breadline. My money's fine. And I want to talk to you directly for a moment, because you are exactly the person I'm most worried about. And if you want to go even deeper into exactly how all of this fits together, I've put everything I've uncovered into writing. Across 3 books, Pension Alert, Beyond the Basics, and Pension Proof, I've laid out the full picture in plain language. Who qualifies, what to say when you call, how to ask for backdating, and what to watch for when the next letter lands. Everything I couldn't fit into one video is in there, written for the person sitting at the kitchen table who just wants to know what to do next. You'll find the details in the description below. But right now, let's keep following the money, because the next piece of this is the one that made me genuinely angry. If you've told yourself you're too well off for any of this, stay with me right now, because this next part is for you specifically. I need you to hear it. Here's why it still reaches you. The biggest reason people don't claim pension credit isn't that they don't qualify. It's that they're certain they don't qualify, so they never check. They see the word credit and think it's a loan. They hear benefit and think it's for someone worse off than them. They've got a small private pension or a few thousand in savings, and they assume that shuts the door. It doesn't. Savings alone don't disqualify you. Having a private pension doesn't automatically disqualify you. The calculation is more forgiving than the headlines make it sound, and the only way to know for certain is to actually run the numbers on your own situation. And think about what's sitting on the other side of that check. If you're wrong about not qualifying, even by a little, you're not just missing a small top-up. You're missing the master key. You're missing the heating payment, the council tax reduction, the free TV license if you're over 75, the whole stack. People have gone years, some of them a decade, certain they didn't qualify, only to find out they were owed thousands the whole time. So here's the one action I want you to take. And you don't need a professional, you don't need to pay anyone, and it costs you nothing. Go to the government's own pension credit calculator. It's on the official gov.uk website. You put in your income and your circumstances, no name, no big commitment, and it tells you in a few minutes whether it's worth making a claim. If you're not online, there's a pension credit claim line you can ring, and they'll walk you through it over the phone. That's it. A few minutes against a possible £3,900 a year. I don't know a better use of 10 minutes anywhere in your week. And if you're doing this for someone else, a parent, a neighbor, the way I did it for Margaret, don't wait for them to ask. They won't ask. People of this generation were raised not to make a fuss, not to take what they see as charity, and that pride is exactly what keeps the money unclaimed. Sit down with them, open the letter with them, run the numbers for them. Now let me answer the question I told you to hold on to, because I finally got to the bottom of it, and it's the part that made me genuinely angry. Remember I asked why the letter tells you what you're losing but not clearly how to claim it back? Why 800,000 people are owed money and don't claim it? Here's the trail I followed. When pension credit goes unclaimed, that money stays in the treasury. Every single household that qualifies but doesn't claim is money the government keeps. And the total amount of pension credit going unclaimed across the country runs into billions of pounds every year. Billions. That's not a rounding error. That's a system where the confusion itself saves money for the people running it. I'm not telling you anyone sat in a room and designed it to be cruel. I'm telling you that when a payment is hard to understand, when the letter is written in language that makes a 73-year-old widow put it down and walk away, the result is that fewer people claim, and the ones who lose out are always the ones with the least. The confusion isn't a bug. For the balance sheet, it works out very nicely. And once I saw it that way, I couldn't unsee it, and I couldn't stay quiet about it. Because think about the timing. They tied the heating payment to pension credit at exactly the moment when 800,000 eligible people weren't claiming pension credit. Which means, on day one, hundreds of thousands of pensioners who should have kept their heating money lost it, not because they didn't qualify for the key that would bring it back, but because they'd never been told plainly to pick that key up. Sit with that for a second. The door was open the whole time. Nobody told them where the handle was. And this is where the deadline and the gateway collide into something you have to understand. Because there's a piece of good news buried in the government's own rules that almost nobody talks about, and it's the thing I promised you at the very start. This is the part that turns everything around. Here it is, straight from the official pension credit guidance. When you make a pension credit claim, it can be backdated, not by a day or two, by up to 3 months. That means if you qualified 3 months ago and just never claimed, you can ask for it to be paid from back then, and they'll pay you the lump sum for those weeks you missed. 3 months of pension credit you didn't know you were owed, handed back to you simply because you finally put the claim in. But it goes further, and this is the detail that most people, even people who work in this area, forget to mention. There was a specific window tied to the heating payment. To get that winter heating money through pension credit, your pension credit claim had to be in by a cutoff date, and because of the 3-month backdating rule, people could still claim after the heating payment period and have their pension credit backdated into the qualifying window, pulling that heating payment back into reach. The backdating rule quietly extended the real deadline for a lot of people who thought they'd missed it completely. Most folks gave up because they thought the window had slammed shut. It hadn't. The backdating held it open a crack, and almost nobody was told. So let me put this in the plainest possible terms, because this is the action that protects your money. If you're over state pension age and on a low or modest income, and you've been sitting there thinking you missed your chance, you may not have missed it at all. Make the pension credit claim now. Ask them specifically to backdate it 3 months. Every week they can push it back is money in your pocket, and it may reach back far enough to unlock payments you thought were long gone. The claim is one form or one phone call. The backdating doesn't happen automatically for everything, so you have to ask for it. Say the words. Ask them to backdate it. And I want you to understand why this matters so much for the deadline letters too. If you get a migration, notice the 3-month clock is real, but a claim made in time protects your transitional top-up. If you're owed pension credit, the 3-month backdating can recover money already gone. In both cases, the same principle saves you. Act inside the window. Ask for what you're owed by name. Don't assume the system will give it to you if you stay quiet, because everything I've dug up says the opposite. The system rewards the people who speak up and quietly keeps the money of the people who don't. Let me tell you how it ended for Margaret, because I think you need to hear that this works. We sat at her table, that same table where the letter had been buried, and we rang the pension credit line together. It took under an hour. I made her a cup of tea and held her hand through the boring bits. She qualified exactly as I'd worked out. They backdated her claim the full 3 months. A few weeks later, she got a lump sum that made her cry at her own kitchen sink, and from then on a top-up every week. And because she was now on pension credit, the heating payment came back to her. Her council tax bill was cut, and being over 75, her TV license was covered too, all of it. From one letter she'd nearly thrown away. She turned to me afterwards and said the thing I can't stop thinking about. She said, "How many people like me just didn't open it?" And that question is why I made this for you. Because the answer is 800,000. And I refuse to let you be one of them. So let me leave you with what really matters here, and it isn't a number, it's this. You have spent your whole life paying in. You raised the children, you did the shifts, you paid the taxes, you never asked anyone for a thing. And what's being quietly taken from you now isn't charity, it's yours. It was always yours. The only thing standing between you and it is a letter written to be confusing and a deadline nobody explained. Tonight, you know better. Tonight, you've got the key in your hand. You're the kind of person who opens the letter, who reads the small print, who checks on the neighbor and rings the parent and refuses to be kept in the dark because you look after the people you love and you don't let officialdom decide what you're owed. So be that person this week. Run the calculator. Make the call. Ask them to backdate it 3 months in those exact words. And I want to hear from you, because this audience never speaks up, and it's time you did. Tell me this in the comments. Did a brown envelope from the Department for Work and Pensions land on your mat this year that you nearly didn't open? Or do you know someone over 75 who's still paying for a TV license they might not need to? Type it below right now. Don't just think it, write it. Your comment might be the thing that makes the next person check in time. And if you don't want to be the last to find out when the rules change again, come with us. Subscribing here isn't about helping me. It's about standing with the people who find out the truth while there's still time to act, instead of reading about it after the deadline's gone. Because next I'm digging into a change coming to the state pension age itself, and the quiet way the qualifying years are being counted, that could cost some of you far more than any letter has yet. Don't miss it. Don't be the one who found out too late. I'll see you there. I'm glad you stayed to the end. This video gave you the overview, but inside the Pension Watch, I walk you through the full pension credit claim, field by field, picking up right where we stopped. If you get stuck, ask me your own question. A real person, me, answers you myself. You won't do this alone. Thousands of pensioners like you are already inside. Just point your phone's camera at the code on screen. Cancel anytime. One click.